Paul holds an M.Div from Columbia Theological Seminary, Decatur, Georgia, and a master's in arts in Hebrew Bible from Yale Divinity School.
Thank you. And then just before I take off this, maybe I wanted to look at this too. This from the Yen, what do you call it, website. Yen is it's a Ghanaian blog, very, very popular blog. There's a story they wrote about Paul. And what have I done? Good. Okay. So I wanted to read a caption for us, and you just read the subtitles, and then I'll close the dashboard. So
Okay.
no.
So the title. Two Ghanaian friends who traveled abroad for master's helped more than 250 people to also go. Two Ghanaian friends in the United States have dedicated their resources to helping people with the desire to travel and study abroad. Paul Essah and Alfred Appiah, as their names go, both enrolled at Columbia Theological Seminary and Yale University in the States. So far, they've been able to assist more than 250 people to successfully achieve their study abroad dreams.
So it's okay. The rest of the story is there. All right. Let me do. Ike, are you there? So, yes. Good morning, Paul. I think at this time you can turn the video on.
I can turn my video on, right?
Yes,
okay.
You can.
Oh my God, good morning.
Oh, looking all yappy and gangster.
I've been sitting here from like 9 p.m.
Wow, what have you been doing?
I've been talking to my wife, just chit-chatting.
See you, darling.
Good to see you, everybody.
In so few years, I've known you for I think how many years now?
Oh, wow.
2008, 2018. So that's like 15 years now. Wow.
That's a wow. You knew me when I was a small boy.
Oh no. No, can you imagine? The days fly by so quickly nowadays. Yeah. So tell us, this is such a huge profile in so short a time. How did you get here?
That's a really good question. I think that I'm here because I went through a process. I'm here because God has a big hand in it as well. So it's been a long journey, after I finished college with you. I think you finished way before. Yeah.
Tell me briefly what your background was in college.
So I went to the University of Education. I did not music education, I did a bachelor's in music. And then after school, I was hired by GAFES, beloved ministry, as a campus minister. So I was working as a campus minister across so my first appointment was in Takoradi. I did some plants there, and then they transferred me to Accra. So I was in Accra for 5 years, and I learned a lot. I grew up a lot throughout that process. They also invested a lot in me, and then exposed me to another side of what ministry could look like. And I followed that path, and essentially it led me through many bumps, and highs and lows to where I am at this point. I'm sure the details we will fill it up with the conversation. So,
wow, yeah. So we just saw some of the works that you do. Just take us briefly through them. For example, your channel on YouTube, your studies at Yale, and then also this work that you do with African students. Just feel free, talk to us.
Right, yeah. So I am essentially multiple things, honestly. So my of all the things that I do, the primary thing that keeps me busy all the time, what I'm paid to do essentially, is is to think and write and speak, basically, is to be an academic. So
that reminds me, someone went to like a certain African country, and then they asked him what his work, and then he said, he thinks and writes, and they were fascinated. They're like, what kind of job is that? Anyway, yeah,
it is a thing. Yeah, that's what academics do. So I would say that's what occupies for the most part of my time. So like you rightly said, I'm a PhD student here at Yale. I did my master's here at Yale. I started with an M.Div, which is like an entry degree into the new field that I was sort of venturing. And then I came here to do my MA, and then I continued through that. I would say my primary field basically is biblical studies, but I also have a minor in history, in African history. So broadly, I would consider myself academically a historian who studies, ancient sacred texts, primarily, Bible and, all of the cultures around it. And some of the specific issues that I focus on is what you read. A lot of that has changed in my recent writing, but I would say it still I still identify those things as some of my intellectual identities. The other side of what I do is also I work with a branch of Yale that focuses on young people, and it's called Yale Young African Scholars.
I hope you guys are not lost. I'm talking to our participants now. I hope you guys are following. So Paul is telling us briefly, about his background, and I guess, for someone that's started broadly, just with ministry stuff, with gaffers, and I'm sure people are beginning to go whoa, what's this? Because it's beginning to get a bit technical, when you talk about Asian, Near East. Where is that? Talk about the languages, the culture, the sacred text, what are these? And I'm going to bring you back sometime later this year when we do on sound doctrine. But it is interesting, and I know it was in the quest of trying to do ministry well that led you ultimately into this space. Okay, and so there are a lot of young people out here too who have calls on their lives and all of that. So yeah, so don't worry, sometimes just hang around and ask the Spirit lead to just open up some of these spaces, because it's a passion, it's a personal desire and a passion. I keep on encouraging young people to take seminary, consider seminary, and sometimes they have issues, especially from our fraternity, Pentecostal charismatic background. So and I recently heard someone quote Albert Schweitzer, who said, example is not the only thing, it is the main thing. Sometimes the way to change the narrative is not just to tell people to go to school, do this. It's also by modeling, showing people other young people who are there and what they are doing now. And so it's your story is important to me, and of course to those that are here. Yeah, so please relax and just take us through
some of the journeys. Yeah, of course. So like I said, I essentially got at this point. I was just talking about some of the specific things that I research on, but that's one side of what I do, right? A big part of what I do is to think about the biblical text in a way that is holistic, in a way that is informed by research, in a way that is informed by defined procedures and processes. And by that, what I mean is, for instance, if you open the biblical text and you're reading, I focus a lot on the Hebrew Bible. To other people, it is the Old Testament. I spent a lot of time on that, right? So if you open the Old Testament and you're reading, you read about the names of characters like Jacob and Isaac and Moses and Zechariah and all of these great people. But you also encounter other cultures that are non-Israelite, right? You encounter like Sargon. If you open to 2 Kings 17, you encounter the Assyrian Empire. You encounter Babylon in Daniel. You encounter Persia in Esther. You encounter, other cultures and other
even
practices
Egypt.
and other names, Egypt, and things like that are not Israelite, right? And you encounter practices that are not Israelite, and you encounter several other processes that are not necessarily Israelite. They are foreign to the Israelite culture that we learn and we take a lot of our faith inspiration from, right? But we believe that those cultures also have something to do, which is about the book itself, what it holds, the truths that it holds, the wisdom that it has for the world, right? And so we cannot study the things that we study and the wisdom that we gather from these, main texts without learning also from the cultures around the text, right? And that's what informs some of the work that we do. So essentially, I'm inspired in this field by multiple things, right? I'm inspired in this field, to essentially, I feel like I'm called to bring the Bible as it is in a way that is unique and different and refreshing, but is also deeply informed by hard work, where hard work is like extensive look at what this book really holds without skipping much of the references that it makes, right? That's like the basic form of what I would say. And I consider myself, I consider myself and my call as on the back end of ministry, right? So, preaching, disciple making may also be about the back end, but disciple making, ministry on the forefront, singing on the stage and everything else is on the fore end of the work that we do as ministers, right? But that's only half, as you know, Pastor Ben, that's only half of the work that we do. There's also the back side, right? There's also the people who are doing work behind the text, right? If you take any standard study Bible, for instance, there's footnotes, the things in the margin, the things on the sides of the margins, right? There's somebody who has done the index, somebody has done the preface, right? So, there's translation committees, there's like translators, there's text critics, there are all these people writing textbooks, technical work and all of that. And they are doing, in my opinion, probably the most difficult of all the works, because they are the ones preparing, the core of the material that the rest of us pastors and forerunners of the ministry are going to rely on to produce knowledge for the rest of God's people, right?
Maybe like in simple terms, one way people can just think about your work is like in the field of like theology, like it's more of like a scientific work. Okay, you take the data, you work on the data, like do the research, hypothesis, like, and all of that. And maybe compared to theologians, which like we take what you do and we systematize it. We are like sort of like philosophers in that industry. Yeah, so that's just a little distinction.
That's true. That's certainly true. Yeah, that's how I think of a big part of the work that I do. I identify as that. Of course, half of myself and the work that I do is also in the forefront because I work in the church. I'm a youth pastor in the church and all of that. So there's that as well. But I think that, I feel, a lot more called to do some of the technical behind the scenes. I always tell myself, I want to be the one writing the textbook. I want to be the one doing the 8 hours of reading and 10 hours of reading and writing, right? I want to be the one doing the hard, slow language work that it would take, years and years and years to study to be able to get, accurately. I want to be the one doing that. And I feel that burden so strongly. And I think that's what has essentially inspired a lot of.
And so like at this point, maybe the lesson here for young ministers is like, if you are thinking of going into ministry and like in modern, like the way we do ministry, people take the scriptures and they just like, do all kinds of things with them. Remember the work of people like Paul. okay, who do all of this work. He just said about sometimes 8-10 hours of daily work, like just on this. And then someone will just go take the text, like, extricate and take out like a text out of its context and butcher the entire thing. Okay. And you are doing such not just like an injustice and like disservice to the body of Christ, but you are also literally just throwing like work down the drain.
Yes.
And your part is even like the least of the work.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, ministry is not for lazy people. There's just no cutting of corners in this kind of work. If you want to do it, you have to go all the way. It's bloodletting. It's sometimes like it's painstaking, it's draining, it's exhausting. That's what ministry is about. Okay. So I like it that you're hearing this from you. And you are here like, and that this all of this is even aside like your MA and then like M.Div work.
Yeah.
You see.
It's years and years and years of work, because for instance, if you're going to be a biblical scholar or somebody who works professionally with the text in terms of, let's just take one aspect like biblical translation, right? You definitely cannot be working in a translated copy to translate other copies, right? You have to be working from the quote unquote original languages or original.
And what are some of these original languages?
Of that. A huge portion of the Hebrew Bible was written in Hebrew. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew. Snippets of it was written in Aramaic. So like parts of Judges, 17 or so verses from Ezra through Daniel was written in Aramaic. So there's Hebrew and Aramaic. Then there's Greek, which is a different kind of Greek. It's not like classical Greek. It's Koine Greek for the New Testament, right? So for the biblical languages alone, you need 3. Right, you need 3 of that, and it takes a while to get that. And then there are other cultural languages surrounding that. So, for instance, if you're going to be working in the book of Esther, Esther is set in the Persian Empire, right? And you're dealing with names like Artaxerxes, Darius, and all of these things. They are not Hebrew names; they are Persian names. So, if you're going to be focusing on that, then it calls for you to know a little bit of Persian. You're going to be focusing on the first millennium, like the Pentateuch, first, through Kings and Chronicles. They are going to be working with like other cultural languages that would include Akkadian and Ugaritic, right? Which is like ancient Near Eastern cultures and languages. So you need that as well. And if you're going to be working in later texts like Ezra, Nehemiah, so on and so forth, you need another layer of Aramaic, which is Imperial Aramaic, right? Which is like the language that supposedly Jesus was fluent in, because it was at the time that Arameans were ruling the world at the time, right? So it calls for different layers of languages to be able to be a master of all of that, and it takes years and years, right? I spent, I'm in my 6th year right now of languages, and I have 4 more to go, right? So it's going to take a long time to be able to get it with tools and it's several layers of exams. You need like intro, intermediate, and advanced, and then even with that, you still have to be keeping it up and all of that. And then you need like other layers of tools like translation theories, translation principles, and courses and all of that to be able to make that work. So it's essentially a lot of work that not many people feel called to do that. Not many people feel called to do. And for me, I think that's like the unique challenge. That's the burden. That's what makes me, why don't we have people in here? And even to set it in the context of Africans and people like us, people who have the skin color like us, right? I am yet to see anybody in all of my years around me who looks like me. And at the institution that I'm studying, I know this is being recorded, but I can bluntly say it. I am the first in the 75-year-old history of this institution who is doing this particular thing the way that it's being done. And, and every African that you speak to, they all keep saying, oh yeah, it's difficult. Oh yeah, it's hard. Oh yeah, it takes time. Oh yeah. So we have a lot of great theologians and great people who I am not a theologian. I don't know anything about theology. I'm a biblical scholar, right? We have a lot of great African thinkers, great African writers and things like that, but all in theology and all in ministry, which is great, right? Which is fantastic. But we still need the biblical scholars to do the underground work. so the theology can happen, so the ministry can happen, so the homiletics can happen, so that, all of that, other things can happen as well. But we don't have as much. So, towards the end, I'm going to call people to say, if you're interested in anything like this, I'm sure I can fix you somewhere, right? I'm sure I can point you to some resources that might be able to begin you on the process to making this happen. Yeah.
Especially for you young people, sometimes it's great when you start off early, because like he's saying, he has 4 more years to go. That's like 10 years just to train for this kind of work. So if the earlier you start, the better. So tell us, given that this is so difficult and tough, what is the motivation? I know you've said it in passing, but what's the motivation? I mean, for choosing this route, and how do you make the transitions? How did you conceive that this was a path that's time for you that you have to take? If someone is here listening to you, how can they discern from your call that they might be called to lean towards this kind of path?
My God, this is such a profound question. I kept thinking so much about it. I tell you, Pastor Ben, I'm sure if God had shown me that this is what is going to happen, this is what my life and my ministry was going to be 5 years, 7 years ago while I was still working with Garthis, I probably wouldn't have taken it because I loved my work with students. I was, a fulfilled campus minister. Had so many students who were doing, or so many fellowships who were doing very, very well. I was okay with my job. But, I would say the unfolding and the inspiration came in steps, right? It's like, I was just thirsty to understand what I'm doing well as a campus minister, right? I wanted to be a better teacher. I wanted to be a better preacher, right? And so I pick a book, finish it, pick another book, finish it, pick another book, finish it. And by the time I realized I was reading several books a year, and I'm like, okay, through this process, I'm developing a habit. I'm training my mind. I'm expanding my heart and my spirit, and I'm opening myself up to a new level of ministry that I myself, even at the time, did not know what it was going to look like, right? So it just started with this tiny desire in my heart to just be a better person and a better minister to the students that I was leading. And then I got a chance to, study with a few people who were a little bit ahead of me. Maybe they had a diploma or they had a master's in, something, they were teaching something, and then they would recommend some more books, right? They'll give me a reading list, and then I would just follow that. And I kept following through until I met another person who had just finished a PhD in New Testament, and I'd never heard of anything like that before.
Wow.
Nobody has a PhD in New Testament. I was like, what? What is this? And
so wait, this attests to the importance of mentorship.
It does.
Okay, mentoring people, because if you are not relating with people, and I mean, you are a Pentecostal charismatic like myself,
I am,
and we know, back here from where we are coming from, I mean, these are things that are not in our community. We don't talk about in our community, like theology, biblical studies, these kinds of technical stuff and all of that. And so it is interesting that the path started with people that were sort of exposed to this, even from outside your community, in so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. And so maybe the point here is which you are doing already, but for a lot of us, to lean back into the community and start offering some of this kind of guidance.
Yeah.
But also for young people to look out for some of these people. Because one of the things that I'm finding difficult nowadays to deal with is people who don't have any desire to be mentored.
Yeah.
Okay. People love it when they can go on social media and take a microphone and a camera and then set it on themselves and say bombastic stuff to get the crowds following, and then really, in no time they are celebrity minister or something. And so they undercut many years of preparation and training and exposure. And when I went to a coffee, one of the things Professor Mary Bediako said was, he said, look, the fire can be there today, and you can be jumping all over the place today, but tomorrow it can fizzle out. What would you have left behind?
Yeah.
Okay, so like a ministry cannot just be like I'm just jumping around and moving here. You have to build, and building takes time. What you are doing now is building, and it's painstaking, but you are laying down a very formidable foundation that you're going to build and erect on, but which is also now going to be like a reference point and a pointer to many Africans.
Yeah.
Okay, you just said a while ago, in 75 years of Yale, like university, there's not been anybody like from our continent doing what you are doing in the way you are doing it.
Yeah.
And so from now, like that's an example. That's like, and people can look up to this and say, look, and you can even make recommendations, and which you are doing anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just can't have enough of your story. I just can't have enough of it.
I think the point of modeling is very, very important. I think that people, for the most part, people become what they see and who their eyes are opened to, right? If all that you see is Facebook preachers who bombard people with negative words and pick a passage of scripture and say God is going to put $10,000 in your account, and so if that's all you see, and you see people clicking to that, all that you aim to be is that, right? And if you have also been exposed to different ways of being and different ways of doing ministry and different ways of meaningfully serving God and the rest of the world, you will be that and you will do that. And the fact that somebody is not doing ministry the way you are doing it doesn't mean that the person is not doing ministry. It doesn't mean that the person is not called. It doesn't mean that the person is carnal or dead. It just means the person has a different mission that you don't understand, right? And I say this because a lot of us Pentecostals who grew up, we emphasize a lot on fire. We emphasize a lot on zeal, and we emphasize a lot on the way we feel about God. And we place very less emphasis on the life of the mind. Right. But you and I know, Pastor Ben, that ministry is sustained with strategy and knowledge, right? We begin with zeal, we begin with fire, and fire is important. We should fan it in a flame. We should keep it as much as we can. But you know that you can have all the fire, but without any strategy, without anything in your mind, you cannot stay in the business for 30 years. You cannot stay in it for 40 years. You cannot stay in it for 50 years. In fact, your understanding of how God works in the world would be limited, even though you have a lot of zeal in your heart. And so, placing emphasis on studying and going to school and going to seminary and going and studying and taking a formal education about the things that you do, I think it's a blessing. Plus, for me, I would not even separate like going to school versus ministry necessarily. I think that the act of studying about God is itself ministry. It's a different kind. Yes, I agree. It's an isolated version of it. Yes, I agree. But it is, for me, it is a call to discipleship too, right? It is you preparing for a journey. And I think that the destination is not different from the journey. The journey is itself part of the call. And so I began, this thing when I was, I left campus ministry, from a point when I was preaching almost every day, every other day, doing, traveling every other. And then I got into this new phase. And then all of a sudden, I'm like by myself, reading a bunch of books. And I'm like, what is this, right? It's difficult. Then like I had to relearn to believe that what God has called me to is ministry. So, I just say that to say, if you are inspired to do this, or if you're inspired to see God in this way, I think you should pursue it. I think you should, and I think it's going to be a great blessing. And for me, even when I foresee the future of African Christianity and African Pentecostalism and African evangelicalism or any of those forms, I think that the ministries that are going to be sustained, the ministries that are going to be pure to make the most impact are the ones who are going to really groundedly train some wild thinkers, right? The ones that are going to die off are the ones who are going to emphasize a lot on sound and lights and speakers and shouting and all of that. But the ones that are going to stay here and make some wild impact are the ones who are going to strategize and say, let's send some young people to school, and let them come back with some deep research to inform us, So yeah, essentially that's it.
Wow. So you were talking about like the transitions like in your path and how like you conceptualize and like all of that before like I cut in with that.
Yeah. So for the transitions, I think apart from trusting God, apart from mentors, right? Mentors, I met the New Testament person that I met was not a Ghanaian, actually. He has just finished his PhD at University of California, Berkeley. Those of you in the US, you know, that's one of the prestigious schools around here. He was just sent by, he said he felt sent by God to just, you know, come onto the continent to just like teach for a while, just mentor young people. And he found himself in Nigeria. I was in Nigeria at the time. Our paths crossed. He did a class on the kingdom of God or something like that. And then, you know, he said we should write something on the kingdom of God. And I wrote something deeply from my heart without even thinking so much about it. He read the thing. He sent his son to come and call me to meet him in his hotel room. And when I went, he says, I feel responsible for you.
Wow.
I feel like, yeah, this is exactly his exact words. I feel like God is asking me to do something for you. Long story short, through him, through everything, I'm here right now. And I'm in touch with this guy right now. He changed my life completely. He's a missionary right now in Egypt, doing amazing work. You know, he has a lot of students.
You told me like some time ago that even when you went to the US, it took a while, like you hadn't seen him, you were just exchanging mails.
Yes, I was just exchanging mails with him for like a whole year. And then towards the end of that very year, he flew from Egypt, came to my school at the time. I was studying at Columbia. We had lunch together. He was so impressed. We talked about my journey, my experience, and then all of that. And you know, when I finished my first entry level, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm probably going somewhere else. And you know, and then Yale gave me an offer, and he said, go to Yale. And I followed his voice. I was like, this voice led me somewhere. I'm going to trust it one more time.
Wow.
And you know, through that, it has opened a lot of doors for me. So mentorship, leadership, especially him, has really opened a lot for me. And then the last thing is what has inspired my transitions is essentially the gaps in my own knowledge and understanding, right? I've always asked myself, okay, what don't I understand? What don't I know? What's left? What's the next piece of the puzzle that I'm not privy to? And somehow God has given me a certain eye for anticipation, right? I could just anticipate what's next in a certain way, where I can tell that, okay, yeah, now I know this piece, I know that piece. I feel like if I know this one too, it's gonna just connect all of the puzzles. And so it's just my own gaps in knowledge that has led me on and on and on. So I always ask myself, what's next? What don't I know? What class do I need to take? What do I need to do? And at this point, I'm feeling like, yeah, my plate is full. You know, I sort of understand what I need to do. So I'm away from taking classes and, you know, doing those things. I'm doing more research and more writing and more networking and conferencing and traveling. That's where I am at this point in my career.
Yeah, and like talking about that, just tell us more about like that's your work you know, in this mentoring thing, like of the next African generation.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Assisting people here. You have a YouTube channel, like 38,000 subscribers. And some of your videos have been watched 125,000 times, 131,000 times, which is huge for someone that's not doing like you know, huge publicity like about some of these, and also for something just like on education, right? Like, how is all of this, and what's the role of education, especially like for young Africans that are looking to change the narrative and then the stories, you know, that we've come to, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to start with the role of education at the end, because I don't want that to get lost in the weeds. I think for me, I've come to believe at this point, and I talk with my wife all the time, I think that one of the ways we can crush poverty on the continent within our families is by winning the battle over ignorance, number one. And ignorance can never go unless some people in our families are educated, right? Most of us, we grew up not seeing any PhD holder in our lives. We only see PhD holders as like these old white dudes with beard and all of that. How many people have seen PhD holders 20-something, 30-something-year-olds, right? You know, the first day I came to school, my prof was my academic advisor. He was 33 years old. He had already finished his PhD, had been teaching for 3 years at the time. I was 26 at the time. I was like, this is my older brother. I always thought that PhD holders and professors are like this white guys who are always boring. Not, and he was wearing jeans with boots and shirts, and he's just like a casual young 33-year-old guy, brilliant to the core, passionate about what he's doing, making impact. That sort of model and example will not happen if some of us don't take the path, right? Don't take the chance to be examples. So again, my point is like ignorance will not be crushed if we don't take the chance to educate ourselves. And through that, poverty will not be crushed if we don't take the chance to educate ourselves. Like all of my friends, I was just talking to a friend this afternoon, we had dinner, and her mother teaches at Harvard, father works with Biden. She just got a scholarship, a Marshall Scholarship to study in Britain, Oxford. She's returning back because she got an award, to work with the journal somewhere in New York. Young person, right? Doing amazing things because their parents set a path for them. They also are setting a path for their children, and they are following that way and the other. So I feel like education, is probably one of the ways that we can fight poverty and ignorance in our families. The second thing, of course, is just general enlightenment that is going to make our lives better. I feel like a lot of the problems that sometimes we attribute to things and mystery and sometimes even spirit and other things. A lot of the problems that we attribute to those things are just clear issues of education and a lack of knowledge. That's essentially it. And the more, even without having so many degrees, the more you read, the more you understand the world better, the more you understand the way things actually work. The more time you spend on praying about like more important core things than praying about things that could just be sort of tackled with, just by understanding, right? Understanding solves a lot of problems that, prayer doesn't need to, right? In other words, you can save your prayer for more core important things like souls and, building an army and those kinds of things. And then, work and walk with understanding. So I think education certainly has a great impact in that. And for me, I feel like a good part of me is doing this also just to be a model, right? Not to prove a point, but just to be a model, just to be out there so that somebody can say, yeah, this is also possible. And by God's grace, so many people have seen that. Segueing into mentorship and YouTube channel and talking about education. So my friend Alfred Appiah actually was one of the key persons that motivated, because I don't like to be in the limelight for certain things, right? So of course, naturally, if you travel abroad and you're doing great things and people are writing things about you and you're having articles and things like that, people will ask you questions. So we get a lot of questions about, oh, how do we do this? Or how did you do this? Okay, what happened? What is your story like? And things like that. And we realized that these questions keep coming over and over. So what do we do about those questions? So we said, okay, we're gonna answer it in a video and we're gonna put it out there. So we did one video, we put it out there. We did the second video, we put it out. And the first one that we did just blew up 200 and something views. We're like, oh boy, this is going somewhere. And then Yale asked me to do an admissions video for them. So I did an admissions video. So if you go on the Yale website right now, you look for that admissions video, International Student Scholar, my video is the one that's there right now. So I did that one for them. I did the same thing for Columbia. And then gradually I got interviews at some of the places that I am a member of. Okay, do this for us, do that for us. So realized that, okay, this thing could be something. So we kept making videos and we kept answering questions. So if you listen to our videos, most of our videos are like, how do you do this? How do you do? There are questions that people send to us. They're not topical videos. They're like we answering questions gradually. And that's how it turned out. That's how it started growing. And then I started taking personal interest in some specific students. So somebody would reach out and ask you a question. You can tell that genuinely this person is talented, but is just struggling about how to go about things. And then I'll say, okay, can you send me your essay? Can you send me your transcript? Can you let me talk to your professor? Can you let me do something? And I'll just guide them. I'll read their essays for them, and I'll do it for the next person, and I'll do it for the next person, and I'll do it for the next person. And by the time we realized we had so many students, as of now, I was just looking back yesterday, And I think we have close to 700 students right now.
Wow.
In the US, yes. I can tell you, we have students at Harvard, we have students at MIT, we have students from Ashesi University, University of Ghana, UGS, we have students from Sri Lanka, we have students from South Africa, we have students from Uganda, Gambia,
wow.
everywhere in the continent, everywhere.
Wow.
And you know, so many talented young people, high school students especially. Some of them, if you look at your grades, their grade, your mind will be blown. Somebody has a 3.9, 3.92, you know, eight A's and all these grades. And I cannot just, like, when they reach out to me, I cannot just look at that. I have to mentor them and guide them and tell them, okay, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. And gradually, you know, that's how we have gotten into this space. I should also say that in the midst of that, there's been a lot of other people who are also reaching out, and you can tell that you just want to live abroad. Those people, you know, definitely, we do not have the time to necessarily interact with those people. So that's how the YouTubing thing and the education thing came about. Right now, we do it less and less. If you look at our video trends, we just like publish videos as and when. This year, we've only recorded 2 sets of videos. Because, you know, Alfred is also a student at Yale, so it's also quite busy. Yeah, so that's essentially it.
Yeah, like, tell us about the next generation.
Yeah, so that's a program that Yale organizes every year, and the goal of the program is, number 1, education, and number 2, the continent of Africa. So with education, what Yale is trying to do here is that they realize that one of the ways that they as an institution can contribute to the development of Africa is to invest in the young people. And one of the ways that they can do that is to mentor young people and place them in strategic institutions so that they can be educated. And then if the school that they are placed is outside the US, they can, outside of their countries, they can return back to their home country to make impact on that, right? Mm-hmm. So what they do is they recruit graduate students and, you know, entry-level fellows and things like that to teach these people. So I have been teaching in this course for over 3 years now. And, you know, we teach courses on different kinds of things. We prepare them for, different, you know, programs at different schools that they need to apply. This is purely high school students, so like teenagers, very, very talented teenagers. As of right now, we have so many students from Ghana, from Gambia, from Uganda, from Kenya, especially, coming to places like MIT and Harvard and Yale. You know, and we see them all the time on campus. The second part is the continent of Africa, which is preparing young students to solve African problems using African ideas, right? So the other half of the program teaches courses on like innovation, development, colonial resistance, and things like that, just so that we can prepare a lot of the young people to now think African about the problems that we have, but also create solutions that will solve those African problems. And so far we have so many students, you know, creating like, you know, innovative ways of solving like social problems. I usually teach all of the colonial and decolonial and, you know, resistance, you know, sort of courses. This semester, which is actually in August, I'm teaching a course on like imperial tactics and how to formulate, you know, resistance towards that, especially, you know, China's intrusion and Russia's intrusion and, you know, the US attempts to, you know, come back and neocolonize.
Imagine, are we even thinking about like all of these things in this way? You know, we will sit here and then as usual, like, you know, they will erode and then like take over as they have done already, and then we start crying foul.
Yes, yes.
So just continue that line of things. I mean, let's hear you.
Yeah, so we're thinking about that, and you know, that's to inspire a lot of the African young high school students to create that. And one of the ways that we motivate that is also to give them awards. So we put them in teams, and after we empower them, we ask them to go out there and look for projects and solve the projects, and we award best projects and things like that. So some people have created like, you know, people have created like nonprofit and advocacy groups that are advocating for women to be included in society in a much more, equitable way. Other people have also created like jobs. Other people have also created their own like social entrepreneurial businesses. Other people in the tech industry have created like, tools, the simple tools that would help like disabled people to do like just basic things that normal people would do, and we have awarded all of those people awards in very significant ways. I honestly find joy in those kinds of spaces because honestly, as somebody who's lived here for close to 7 years now, my only hope for the continent is to see these young talent, right? Because when I see them and the way they think and their willingness to make an impact on their own colleagues, it just inspires me so much. And I should invite you to my class just to sit in and listen to these young folks. Your
I will be delighted about that.
Blown out. Yeah, so that's the other half of the work that I do. We will be coming to Harare actually in August to teach there. So we convert all the African students in one place, and then we teach for 3 weeks, and then we do another intensive online for 3 weeks.
If someone is here and they're listening to you, how do they access like some of these facilities?
Fine. Yeah. If you have if you're here and you are less than 18 years old, you qualify. This year is certainly over, but next year they're going to open up applications sometime in September. I'm going to send you a link, Pastor Ben, so that folks can follow through, read about the program, and then if you do qualify, certainly go ahead and apply. They are looking for students all the time, and especially they're looking for students who didn't go to these fancy like SOS and all these like fancy private schools, but they're looking for people who go to public schools and just need a chance. So certainly go ahead and apply and make that happen. There are other opportunities as well. I'm sure you're gonna.
Which I'm gonna like. Yes, you can just go ahead and talk about like what of those who have like age doesn't like maybe by age or something.
Yes.
They've already gone over some of these kind of like brackets. What are some of the opportunities that are out there, like in terms of, school in education, like even like certification programs online, like mentoring. If someone is here and they just want to like build, like through this means, like do something, to like help them like scale like on social enterprising, like what do they do?
That's a really good question, and these are the sorts of things that like sometimes somebody needs to tell you. But would you believe that every year there are about $100 million worth of scholarships sitting somewhere that are unclaimed every year? Unclaimed scholarships, unclaimed scholarships. Yeah. That's to tell you the magnitude of opportunities out there. Now, let me clarify this. Sometimes when we see opportunities, people think of, oh yeah, this is the free door that has been opened that nobody's walking through. No, it's free door that has been opened, but it's open for those who have prepared themselves, right? It's not like easy door that you can just get into. It's easy door for the qualified people who learn how to present themselves strategically. That's how you're going to get it, right? So the opportunities certainly do exist. It takes a little bit of strategic preparation. There are over 6,000 universities in the US, and every single one of them are looking for people all of the time, right? So there's certainly opportunities for people to study in healthcare, to people to study in IT, for people studying humanities, right? I feel like these are the three broad, areas that's going to contribute significantly to the growth of Africa, right? Because we need the people studying in humanities. Can you just go over them
again? IT, humanities, healthcare.
Yes, IT, humanities, healthcare, right? Humanities, because we need people who are doing the critical thinking, people who are asking the questions that would challenge cultures, questions that would challenge the way we behave, questions that would challenge the way politics is done, questions that would challenge the way religion is done, right? We need those kinds of people, and it's the humanistic programs that would help us build those kinds of things. People who are studying in religious studies, history, economics, political science, and so on and so forth. We also need
people shouldn't just allow themselves to be bamboo by this science, maths, thing. If they have a select to pursue calling, they should focus on it.
Certainly do. Yeah, certainly do. There's so many opportunities out there for that, right? Law is another huge part. We cannot even have time to talk about the social justice, sort of system that we run in our countries. Can you believe that, till date, a lot of African communities are still relying on informal justice systems, and they cannot trust the legal former judicial systems for them to get, it's just appalling. And so we need those kinds of people. And IT, of course, like, I'm still seeking out for African communities who are talking about AI and the impact of AI right now. But, from where I am and my friend, a lot of people are thinking very creatively about how AI can impact our life and our society and the next generation.
And it's not even a topic here now. I mean, over there, they are thinking about singularity, like migration and they're putting all of this in one stream. And we haven't even started.
Yes, it's a shame, and sometimes I feel like by the time we realize and we catch up, it's no more AI, it's something else.
Something else. Wait, so who are the people that are supposed to be leading these conversations back here?
I think it is us. I think it is platforms like this, the platform that you have created, and you're having me share some of these ideas.
But this
right?
platform is so small.
It's so small. We need to be creating our own platforms. We need to be thinking about some of these things. And these are like, right now, I'm very sure that if anybody wants to venture into IT, there's definitely so many opportunities for you. I'm encouraging my younger siblings, my younger nephews to all start thinking about IT and healthcare. Because no matter what you want to do in life, you can still do that. So for sure, think about IT.
Okay. No matter what you want to do in life, you can still do what?
You can still do that. You can still pursue IT. You can still pursue information technology as like a subsidiary or version of it, right? Right now, accounting MBA degrees, if you follow the traditional track, you probably would be, kicked out because there's like accounting with IT, data analytics, cyber security, right? We've gotten to a point where if you're doing the traditional work without any form of an IT component, you're basically out, and so all of those things are evolving. And of course, healthcare is also becoming a very big industry right now in the world, like the new technologies right now that are being relied on to provide quality healthcare. It's, I am so blessed to have, access to one of Yale's most prestigious health facilities. And every time I go there for some purpose, I'm just blown away by like the technology that they have right now, like robots doing, surgery, like the surgeries now is not like touch you and siege anymore. Right? It's just a robotic version of that. I'm sure some people here will do that. You can do a surgery and show somebody I took out a kidney here, or I took out a kidney part of my body, and there's no sign. There's just this tiny little hole. There's technology that is coming up all the time that people need. So I think health, IT, and all of that. Online education, I would say, 1 minute. Let me plug my laptop. It's dying off.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah. So for online education, some of my favorite places to go is a platform called Skillshare. I'm going to send it all to you so that you can send people if they want to. But a platform called Skillshare. Of course, we all know about Coursera, but Coursera is well recognized right now. So if you're not thinking about that, that's also a great place to study. Sometimes I feel like it's not every sort of training that you necessarily need to follow a degree path to get a degree, but you can learn some things along the line, right? How to code, like basic coding, so that you can build your own website for whatever service or business that you have, right? If you're a fashion designer, at this point, you don't really need a store on the street with the signboard. You can sew your thing in your own house and then build a website and put it out there online, right? So, basic coding, how to basically do video editing, how to start a business, how to trade stocks, how to get into education, things like this. You can learn all of this through Skillshare. One of the places I go to learn most things. You can learn basically anything on Skillshare. Another platform that I like is also a platform called Khan Academy. It's again, I'm going to send you the link, but it was built by this really brilliant Indian guy who went to Harvard and then started teaching his nephew, math online, and then posted one of the videos, and then all of a sudden it blew up, and then he built this whole website, got support from Bill Gates Foundation, and it's now become a big thing. And you can learn basically anything from pre-K, nursery to university. it's really huge and it's very well organized. It's, yeah, somebody says Khan Academy is excellent. Fantastic. Please take a look at that. And then another thing that I like to do is just the major universities, they sort of are now feeling a little guilty about, a school like isolating themselves and their fancy education. So they are now putting all of their courses online. Yale has Yale Online and it's all completely free. Harvard has Harvard Online, Stanford has Stanford Online, MIT has MIT Online, where they put sample of their classes, really well organized classes on several different things that you can also suddenly learn a skill for free, which is going to just improve your life. So those are the places that I would say you should certainly go to. The last tip that I would give is I watch a lot of documentaries, and I think documentaries have changed my life as much as my relationship with God.
Wow.
So I wanna encourage people also, if you're really curious about like nonfiction stuff and real life stuff, watching a bunch of documentaries would also change your life. So those are some of the opportunities that I would say. If people want to study biblical studies, theology maybe, or just a formal education about God, the world, the Bible, that kind of thing, I can talk for like 10 hours on that. So
I need to bring you back.
There's certainly so many, especially for Africans studying biblical studies. I'm personally invested.
Yes. Maybe just a little synopsis, but I'm going to bring you back suddenly for just that alone. But like just a little synopsis on that, because there are a lot of people here interested in ministry, who basically have, because I was a Christian leader for a long time, but I had no idea all of these things existed, And so maybe just a little synopsis,
Yeah, there's certainly so many other schools. I know it's being recorded, but I'm gonna still sneak it in here. Just to let you know that a place like Yale right now, they are expanding their reach to what they call the global South, right? So global South includes certainly Africa, Latin America, and so on and so forth. So they're extending their reach to them, and they're looking for brilliant, sometimes brilliant exclusive people, but they're looking for students who are willing to do the hard work. Essentially, that's what it means. And they are going to fund projects. And this project launched last year, actually. And so from this year moving forward, they're going to be launching, like a new program that's designed towards students like that. That's just to show you one out of the number of schools that are willing to invest in young Africans who are interested in studying about God. The motivation is this: everybody in the world right now knows that the church in Africa is the ish, right? This is where the real church is right now. And so everybody's trying to either invest or be a part of that growth. And so all these institutions are investing a lot of money. When I did my master's at Yale, I got some good scholarship, but I didn't get as much as the new program is going to give to students. They're going to pay, including flight ticket, the soap that you use to bath, basically everything about your life, your basic need is going to be sorted out through that. And Yale is just one. There's several institutions like Columbia right now. If you're an African or somebody with an African descent, if you apply to Columbia, you don't have to pay a single tuition fee. And that's part of their commitment towards that. They may not pay your living expense as Yale would do, but you not paying your tuition fee is the biggest burden is God. And same as several other institutions in New York, in Virginia, in California that I might be able to point out to students who are interested in studying Bible and studying history or theology or whatever. Yeah.
Wow. There's a lot, a mouthful. So just in closing, before you pray with us, you are a Christian and a minister, of course, but what role has your faith played in all of those transitions? Because I presume there were questions you had, sometimes, reconciling belief with reality and just speak to us.
Fantastic. I have intentionally ventured towards, I have intentionally ventured towards spaces and institutions that would allow me to explore my faith not exactly the way I want to explore it, but challenged me well enough, but also not confined me, right? And I've had conversations with you, Pastor Ben, over this, in the past, but I've intentionally ventured into research institutions because research institutions, although they have their own biases, their biases are not like faith-oriented biases. So in terms of like faith tensions and, struggles with belief in God and those kinds of things, I've had very minimal throughout my journey. But certainly my relationship with God has played a huge role in both sustaining me within this journey and also inspiring the beginning of the journey. I remember one time that was in 2018. I was just, beginning my journey 2 years in, and there was a church in Jamaica that needed an associate pastor. So I volunteered to go, and so I got the support that I needed to go. And while I was there pastoring the church, it was just, a decent church of about just 60 people. Most of them were more than 40 years old, 60-year-old. It was just, a bunch of like grown-ups who were wanting a pastor who would lead them. And while I was there doing work, praying one evening, I had God reaffirm my faith, in the journey that I have taken. Right? I had God like speak back again to me. I always knew that God has been with me and God inspired the journey from the beginning. But of course, in the midst of that, there's so many questions, so many doubts, and that reaffirmation really, 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 got me going. And one of the things that God said is that you're going to make scholars out of ordinary people. It is a unique ministry. He says it is a unique ministry that not many have obeyed me diligently enough to pursue. He says, I have anointed your mind and given you words, and indiscipline, discouragement, brokenness, hopelessness cannot stand you by my spirit.
Wow.
And I wrote that down. And I always go back to it, that this is a unique ministry. It's not going to look exactly the way that other ministries look like when, after school, because then, all of my friends, my colleagues, they were all starting churches, they were all getting ordained, they were all getting to, and sometimes you feel like, yeah, this is probably the path that you need to go to because, this is where you journey, this is how you started, this is what you're familiar with, this is what it should be. And God is saying, yeah, it is for them, but it's not for you because I have called you to a unique ministry. And it's going to be a teaching ministry. It's going to be a ministry of the mind and of the spirit. It's going to be a ministry that not many people have obeyed me to pursue. It's going to be a ministry that is going to be like filled with books and research, and it's going to be lonely, but it's a unique ministry that I want you to stay on. And it is by your words that things like indiscipline, lack of principle, brokenness, and so on and so forth, it's going to leave. So my relationship with God till today has really, really, really sustained me throughout all of my journey.
Oh, amazing. You guys are not asking any questions, so or you want us to
saying, wow.
Yes, they're just saying wow. Yeah, they will often tell me we need part 2. Yeah, this has been like incredible, like inspiring, and yes, this got some of the things that when you hear, your mind just keep on, juggling, like ideas are hitting you all over the place, and I can, like I can spend the whole day just talking with you back and forth. Yeah, so I had like maybe 2 quick follow-up questions. I don't know if people will have patience. Like how should like you have like just married, like young couple.
Yeah.
How should we be thinking of like family building, again, connected to your work in terms of like I'm looking at what you're doing in relationship to colonialism and its effect, which doesn't seem to like go away, no matter how hard we've tried. So like, how should Christians be looking at some of these things? And I like what you're doing again with these young people, sort of like take virgin minds, like fertile minds, and look, try to get them right from the beginning, like they say, and catch them young, and then help them see like these things differently so that they can, the trend can be broken. How should Christians be conceptualizing like family building, especially for kids? How should we be, like I'm looking at raising, this wasn't part of our line of questions.
I know, but yeah. It's a relevant topic, certainly. Especially if you're going to be raising children for the world that is coming, You know, and that's usually the kind of thing that we don't often think about. We always think about like here and now, right? And we think about the tradition and what the trend has been, how our parents raised it, how our siblings are raised, and so on and so forth. But if you're going to be imagining the world and the world that is coming, then I think that we need to be more intentional.
Just a quick one, by the way. Like I have a broadcast that I do there. If you want to receive some of the things that he's talking about and you are not on my broadcast list, in other words, you don't receive anything from me, put your number in the chat box. I'll copy and then so that you can benefit from the things that like he's going to send to me to send. Otherwise, I won't be able to reach you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
And again, if you need like if you need, for example, Paul can provide mentorship to you. He's very busy, but I'm sure like little things here and there he can do that. So let me know. I'll vet you myself anyway before I connect you. So I'll reach out if you need him to provide mentorship to you. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, I was talking about like, you know, raising kids for the future, building a family for the future, because you know the world is changing, and if you live in this part of the world, you see it even quicker, you know, because it's close to you right now. Like if you're talking about technology and access to technology and access to information, access to data right now, it's a beneficial thing. But you know, there's also something called misinformation, and you know, be misled by information. And you know, kids are now like getting addicted to screens and technology and things like that. You know, I do youth ministry here, and one of the things that I struggle with a lot, especially with the younger ones, the high school folks, is phone addictions. Like you could take their cell phones from them, and you can literally tell that they have like they're jittery. You know, they're basically shaking because they don't know how to behave without the screen, without the cell phone. That's the world we are getting into, right? And the kinds of things that they have access to on their cell phones, we don't know. You know, sexuality and gender, it's a very slippery definition right now. Like, you know, how do you define sex? How do you define gender right now? In the world that we are going into, it's a complex conversation, and it's becoming more complex, you know, as we keep going. And if we're going to be raising a family in that kind of a world, I don't know what else we can do except to be like strictly intentional. And raise kids with prayer. And I always tell when we talk about this and we realize the complexity of what it's going to be to live in the life, the world that we're going to live in, you know, one of the things that keep coming up in our conversation is to raise kids around prayer. Because I like, my father never talked to me about Jesus, but I heard and learned about faith through my father's prayers. You know,
wow.
And we've been raised around prayer, in an environment of prayer. I think like that's probably one of the other key things that we can think about, and also being very strategic and having deep conversations with our kids. Gone are the days where you can leave kids for society to raise them for you. Now you cannot trust school, you cannot trust your neighbor, you cannot trust your nanny. Right? You have
and I like that you're saying that these are like institutions that we used to like trust a lot, but now you cannot trust them. No, I even say that, look, even our parents, I have a little problem with people who give birth and they're just dumping their kids with their parents because they don't have time. Yeah. And my contention is this: look, your parents are very good, okay, and they might raise kids that are morally good for you, but in terms of like the mind, because your parents didn't, I mean, the way they raised you, I've been raised for like the world in which you live now. And the world is advancing, and now like at a very speedy rate. Very. You know, even beyond. So, I mean, allowing our parents to raise kids who are going to live in a world like that is step ahead of yours. Something I think I'm doing the kids a disservice, like at the foundation level. Okay, because the kids need the exposure that you have to start drawing their attention to some of the things that they are going to be dealing with, the complexities that you are talking about. So we definitely need to be deliberate. I just started like a subject on discipleship last Sunday. And one of the things I'm looking forward to doing with it is, because people think of discipleship as just okay, they will shout at you, love God, the cost of discipleship, sacrifice here and there. But look, you'll be screaming at people, and the warfare is right out there in the media.
It is.
They go out there and it's about gender, sexuality, homosexuality, abortion. And how are we taking this as part of like our ethical living in terms of discipling people and looking at these ideas, like, I mean, in relationship with what the scriptures say, because that's what discipleship is about. Okay. So because we have this wrong notion about disciples, when we mention subjects like this, people are not excited. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it's boring or something. But this is what I need to give you, like, to understand. Because there's a structure, like there's a framework for like understanding the world. Okay,
Yeah.
it's only Christians that don't take this in seriously, and maybe Pentecostal charismatics especially, because that's our community. And when you approach the word without the structure and the framework, everything is confusing. Yeah. Okay, so you can pray 3 hours and 5 hours and be on fire. You get out there, someone puts the question to you, and all of it, and you're confused, yeah. And then you're actually hitting a faith crisis. But then, because nobody ever took their time to educate you, to get you to understand that, look, this is the way things are. These are the worldviews that exist. This is the structure and the origin of these kinds of worldviews. And so when someone says this, someone will say, oh, karma, the bitch. Karma, they have no idea karma is actually someone's religious belief.
It is,
you know, and that when you believe in karma, you cannot believe in the resurrection and believe in the life after here and judgment and like all of that if you believe in karma. But a Christian will just say that, and something like, oh, but I have my own truth. You know, that's your truth. I also have truth.
Relative truth.
All of this is set out in warfare. Like this spiritual warfare, because then they're going into pluralism and like relativity and like that. Okay. Yeah. So yes, just complete your thoughts and then your last one.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be unfortunately it's going to be more complex, and especially I'm sure some of your folks are outside. You know, it's probably going to be more complex. It is going to be a lot more slippery and more technical to raise kids, and I think that it would call for some intentionality, especially as the Africans. We have a very haphazard way of letting things happen by itself, without us programming and planning it. And when it doesn't go that way, then we blame God. But you know, how on earth you want it to happen if you don't make that happen? And you know, I see it all the time. Like I told you, I work with youth and I've been working with youth since I came here, and I see the problems like on a daily basis. You know, the complexity of the ideas, the way they think, even the way we're going to be doing church in the future. If you're talking about like raising family and discipleship and all of that, all of those techniques have to change. The way we think about church, the way we organize church, the kinds of things we teach, the way we think about Bible, the way we think about money, the way we think about, you know, all the things that we traditionally would do as a church. All of that has to really, really significantly change completely. When I'm in youth meetings and I'm talking to my 14-year-olds about Chinese politics, it would mess your mind, right? And we're having Bible study on the book of Judges, and they'll come and they've read everything and they're like, let's talk about Judges 19. Why is this book so weird, right? And we are going to talk about that, right? And we are going to engage them at a head level, and then, you know, lead them also to also have a certain level of faith and hope in the text, right? And so it's like, you cannot be shallow, you cannot be haphazard, you cannot live your life on plan, because it's going to get hard, it's going to get complex, it's going to get busy.
Wow. 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 You just left me hanging. You know, I was salivating, especially when you mentioned Chinese politics and all of that. Anyway, so I think we have to get you back like even sooner than definitely I'm gonna have like another you know, like on doctrine, and we'll have you back like talk to us. But you guys should pray for him. Christalive is thinking of like sometime later starting seminaries and all of that. Are we going to need, Paul's expertise?
My God.
You know, at this rate, it's slipping out of my hand. So you guys need to pray, and let's see what God can get us to do like in future. I know he's way beyond our heads now, but anything is possible. So like just pray with us to share in some of your grace. Pray for young people that are desirous, that have been called to a life of the mind, that can pursuit of the mind, to scholarship, to academia, to you know, more technical works, you know, and even people that are also in the forefront, like down like in the field, like what the kinds of training that they need, encouragement and exposure and all of that. Your path in many ways has been a combination of like supernatural and like the hand of God providentially just working through people. To get here, just pray with us and share, like help us share some of that grace.
Shall we pray, friends? Mighty God, I pray, commit all the people under the sound of my voice into your hands, oh God, your mighty hand of grace. And I know that you're sending so many people, and you are, through these words, this brief conversation that we've had, inspiring ideas, inspiring thoughts, and challenging people and encouraging people to rise beyond who they are. And I know this is your prompting, this is your voice, this is your word for these hearts and these minds. And pray that these hearts and these minds would work. They will work on these words. They would go out there and pursue the call, the desire that you are calling them to. I pray that through these people you will raise an army of deep thinkers, an army of great writers, an army of orators, people who speak on your behalf eloquently, with truth, with passion, with spirit, with zeal, with fervency, oh God. I pray that you will raise great thinkers who will have a passion for our culture, have a passion for our families, have a passion for church, have a passion for the way politics is done and how society is structured, people who will think holistically about life, about the world, about you, God. I pray in the name of Jesus that through these young men and women listening, hearing, you will raise a strong army for our continent, Africa, our country, Ghana especially. People who will be passionate about that. People who will not just be selfish, looking for their own self, satisfaction and their own self-prosperity, but people who will care about the community in which they live. People who care about how things are structured. People who care about our own benefit as a country, as a communal people, oh God. Pray that this passion will be flawless. And for those who are called specially into the academy, oh God, people who are called into studying about God in a formal way, I pray, God, that you would stir them up and grant them and bring them the opportunity that they need, the opportunity that will inspire this growth and found this gift alive in them. I pray this, oh God, in the mighty name of Jesus. For young women who are raising families with their spouses, pray for your grace, your compassion for children. I pray that we will have men who are not traditional, and ultra conservative about their values about children and families, but God, they will be open-minded and they will hands-on with their spouses, raise kids who will transform life, transform society, transform your kingdom, oh God. I pray this in the mighty name of Jesus. And for anybody struggling to find that thing that you're sending them to do in the world, for anybody battling with that voice, anybody battling with where to place their gift, how to develop that gift, I pray that struggle away, because you would penetrate their lives with help in the name of Jesus. That through these words, they will find courage to even seek help and find direction. In your name, I pray and declare this, oh God. Thank you for those who are also trusting you for resources. We know that resources are a huge part of what we do in this world and in the ministry upon which you have called us. That these resources you will gather from the north, from the east, from the west, from the south. Bring resources and gather resources for them. Human resources, financial resources, institutional resources, resources in forms of mentorship and leadership. You would release these resources unto them, oh God, in the name of Jesus. Thank you for all that you do through our lives, through our work, oh God. Thank you. We're grateful.
Jesus. Yes, Lord.
Of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Just a little maybe you can just speak to this before you go. What are some of the practical ways that people can start off with? There's some practical, maybe starting a blog, maybe an NGO, and what do you think about somebody feels inspired?
Yeah, I think if you're inspired to pursue God through formal education, I think you should start looking out for opportunities out there. I think you should start Googling stuff, start researching stuff, start asking questions, start asking people who have done it before, and start pursuing that. And I'm sure it's through that you're going to be able to find things. If you're inspired, to present, you have a word, you're to present as a different form of a message. You're inspired to do something, to bring a voice. You have something, you have an idea. I think you should start a blog. I think you should start a podcast. I think you should start a YouTube channel. I think you should, do something. Put yourself together with a few folks who think like you, who are in like passions like you, and start something and put a word out there. Especially for us young Africans, I think it is time for us to start collaborating. It's time for us to start thinking about.
And I like that, collaborating.
Yes, it's time for us to start thinking about things like that, because colonization has made us think very selfishly about our own selves. And the little things that we have, we display them, and we sort of like, it's like we make mockery of other people who don't have it. Look at what we do on social media. When I bought a car and I bought this and you don't have this, and my car is better than yours, and this is better than this. And it's all poverty and colonial mindset. We have to be able to resist those kinds of thoughts and think about our neighbor and collaborate with somebody and form a team with somebody, start a business with somebody, write a blog with somebody, do something, collaborate with it. That's how we're going to be able to break these sort of, poverty thoughts and lack in our lives, indeed.
Yes, I think what I'm going to do now is, because this June is going to be a month of discipleship, July will be missions, and all of these things are things that you can easily speak to. So I'm already telling you to schedule these things, and we're going to have to bring you up, because we need to discuss these things in that light. I quoted Albert Schweitzer. It's in modeling that people will learn, So thank you so much. You have no idea how grateful I am, and thank you so much for the work you do. We are praying, keep on pressing on. I know it's hard. There are not many examples like ahead of you, but you are such an inspiration, even at this stage. We are proud of your work, so just keep on pressing, and we are praying. You can be sure that we pray for you every single day. And I know God is going to use you for mighty works, to change, the temper and then the tenor of the kind of the flavor of Christianity that we have here. Yes, a lot of noise, but very soon, fresh water is going to erupt from the ground, and out of these very ashes, or bonfire, new plants are going to grow. Yeah, so we are super proud of it.
I'm very, very happy. Our friendship began at a time that is very, very timely, and I can see the fruits and the results and the reward of it all. So thank you so much for all you do. I think you are an amazing pastor who thinks very differently about the way things ought to be, and your kind of pastoring and discipleship and thinking is what our world, especially our continent Africa, needs right now. So be encouraged to pursue it, and for everybody following and being a part of this ministry, this is what we need. This is what our country needs. This is what our future needs. So I pray that you are a part of it, and I pray that you learn as much and you partake of this friendship with Pastor Ben, because in a few years, who knows? You seriously. So.
Don't wait. Tell them. Don't wait. So don't wait too long. So this Christalive Church, you can be a part of us. We are a newly planted church. Still trying to find our feet. Like he's saying, it's hard, trying to reconfigure all of these things and put them in new models and media. And so it's tough. It's been slow. 6 years now. I'm just don't even consider myself as being at foundational level. All of this just preparatory work. So come out here, join us. Let's start together. And yeah, God bless you. So I'm gonna talk to you afterwards. Maybe I'll let you rest. It's done in the US, and so you rest. I'll talk to you later in the day, and we'll see how to schedule some of these things. Thank you so much. God bless you.
You're welcome. All the best to everybody. I'll send you resources so that you can send people.
Please do. All right.
Okay. All right. All the best.
Bye-bye. Yeah. All right. So all too soon, guys. We've come to the end of our discussion. But tomorrow, like I told you, we are packing a lot into this month. And so tomorrow, amen. Tomorrow, I'll have 2 young women, both PhD students, one in Ghana, one in Spain. And they're going to also talk to us about their journey, and I'm going to ask them questions. This is important. We've been praying, and I love the prayer sessions. But again, spirituality that is not built on like sound knowledge, like we've said, on sound doctrine, is only going to sooner than later, slip into mysticism. And that's what we have in here in our polity. And it's more than dangerous, Why are Christians vehemently, attacking an archbishop for saying, for example, that Nobopo is the headquarters of, witchcraft and wizardry? This is something that we all know. But it should tell you that the emotion of the nation is shifting away from, Christian hegemony or sort of being the dominant faith to now going into social justice and like all kinds of things. So, and it's largely because we are not taking time to disciple people, to help people think through the different nuances and like the ideas that are out there. Sometimes people just think that they are trying to be fair, but it's not as simple as that. Okay, so let's help you think through these things. It's largely a work of the mind. Okay, so don't shy away from it. Don't say, oh, at the end of the door, oh, now so quite professor. Ghanaians have a way of trivializing these things and then making them look like, I say something. No, this is what it is. You can't get around this. Okay, you can pray. We've been praying for many years now. And I can still look around and see people and see, say, oh, dependence have any significant yes. So we have to think deeply about the work we are doing and then look at ways of getting it, like breaking it down in little ways that can affect people, okay, in ways that are transformative. Yes, so tomorrow we have those sisters talk to us. In fact, I'm thinking of even bringing a third person who's into microfinancing and like all of that, but our month has been checked with all of this. And I think it's been the most eventful month since the beginning of the year. In June, like I've intimated, we're going to make a transition into looking at all kinds of things. Yesterday, Prince was telling me he was shocked when he saw me do this sudden migration and they're talking about all of this practical stuff. He didn't know I could do this. And like, yeah, and it's maybe he's surprised because of the way we do church. Okay. Is that Dr. James? So like it's been like very tough, but I have to like a seed that has been planted in the ground, like break out and grow. It's been hard, but conceptualize like the entirety of the world and look at how the Bible speaks to it. And so we should look at things like the scriptures and then politics, the scriptures and then like the work world. All of these are things we don't do in our church. And so there's a confusion and there's always this tension of it's Christianity versus something. No, it's Christ and culture. And so there's a gospel mandate. Okay, there's a new creation or new covenant mandate, and there's the old covenant mandate, which is cultural. And if you are not thinking through like those, the says we're going to just be spiritually useful people praying in the church, but who have no relevance and usefulness when it comes to the natural world. I believe that all of you, from the work that you do, have been called to pursue ministry and like sort of like a public ministry in that regard. And so if you don't understand all of these things, you're going to waste all of those awesome opportunities and have your life quarantined inside the church, which is a very little sport, and just do what your pastor is doing, and in the end, we become dysfunctional. Okay. So yes, if you don't have a church, I encourage you to join us. We are still growing, trying to understand like what's out there and then the work that we are going to do. And we need a lot of hands. I have been boxed down with school. Okay, it hasn't been easy. I didn't anticipate it that much that it was going to be this intense. And so yes, but gradually I'm coming to the end of my studies too, maybe like less than 6 months or 8 months. But what I'm saying is you're invited to come along with us so we can grow together. Look, don't be like Jonathan, okay? He knew his calling late with David, but he was trying to play nice with his dad and he ended up dying. There are people like that. Sometimes you have to make that bold, like audacious decision and just say, no, I feel called this way and I'm going to have to take the risk to just be where God has called and they want me to be. So come out here, lots of work to be done. But then tomorrow to be here in the morning so we can like listen to our sisters, like pick up the lessons and then opportunities, how they got to where they are, and the opportunities that are there for some of you who have been called to that path too. And if we've had time, we can like get one more person on board to talk to us about microfinancing just to help you. Is that Dr. James, Harriet's husband, like online? Oh, it's James Akwesi. Okay. Yeah, bro. Yeah, thank you. So God bless you. And have a great day. I'll send the resources when you send them. And yeah, so I'll see you God willing tomorrow. If you are sick, if you have any problem, get in touch with me. After you can call right after, like we go offline, and I will talk and the minister to you. God richly bless you. You have a wonderful day for yourself. I'll see you God willing tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. God bless you.
Bye-bye, Babin.
Bye-bye.
Kubolo Sam here.
When like I say,
Samantha.
Oh, Martha. It's been a long
Yes,
time.
Babin, long time.
Yes. Yeah.